Morning. You alright? I genuinely hope you are alright. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, raring to go. Looking forward to the day ahead. I hope so. I'm joined by my producer, Little Harry. How are you, good sir?
Morning. Yeah, I'm
Good. Good stuff. Good stuff. And you are the glorious band, the chosen few. My band of brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. It has just ticked past 8 in the AM, Greenwich Mean Time, on Thursday. It's now Thursday, isn't it? The 19th of February in the year of our Lord 2026. Shall we see what the corporate mainstream media is banging on about this morning, shall we? Shall we have a look at what that cabal of evil editors on Fleet Street want to try and pretend is important today? All right, let's jump straight in then, shall we? All right, the front pages then. First of all, the overall sort of meta storyline is that Trump pulls support for Chagos again, and Britain faces a 1936 moment, i.e. a question all about armament, rearmament, whether we're armed enough. One quick technical point. Harry, do you want to check if this camera's focused entirely properly? I think it is. It may or may not be. But anyway, I'll leave it up to you and I'll carry on. All right. Yeah, Trump's support for Chagos, because he's sort of flipped and flopped a little bit on that. Just the other day, literally earlier this week, it was in the news that America had indeed signed off on it all. Last sort of thing, more than a week or so ago, he'd said that it was the best deal. There we go, more in sharper focus. Anyway. The best deal he could get. It was the best deal Starmer could get. And he'd left it at that. Which seemed to be like at least some sort of tacit signing off on it. They've ummed and ahed on it. Trump seems to have flip-flopped on it at various points, saying it was a terrible idea. And then saying, oh, well, it is what it is, sort of angle. And now, right now, even a change from a few days ago, he's saying it's a bad idea. It's not a good idea. You're making a huge mistake, all that sort of thing. So, would it be nice if we come out stronger on this subject a lot earlier, wouldn't it? Wonder if it would have made much of a difference. If Keir Starmer would have ploughed ahead with it regardless of anything, because, well, him and some of his buddies were making money out of it. If the Andrew Bridgen allegations are to be believed. Anyone know about that? Andrew Bridgen wrote an open letter saying he's accusing Hermer and Starmer and a couple of other people of basically just taking money, making loads of money out of this. And it was all about making money. Anyway, we'll get into it a bit more. The Chagos Island stuff is in the news today, as well as more Andrew stuff. Okay, let's just get into the headlines. So the Daily Telegraph, the Tory graph says, do not give away Chagos, Trump tells Starmer. President Wall's Diego Garcia base, that's the main base on those islands, would be crucial for strikes on Iran as he changes stance on deal again. Yeah, so it is a crucial base, sort of strategically, when you look at a map for that entire region. America doesn't need it in order to strike Iran. They've got multiple other options, but still, just in the grand sort of global strategic view, it is important. For America, more than us. I thought they'd probably come out stronger about it. Long before now, anyway. There's a picture of some Ukrainian girl who had her house blown up by Russians, and she's blaming Britain because we had something to do with the tech behind the missile that did it. So, all right. The Times, the venerable Times. Children face review of right to special needs support at 11. Okay. Trump pulls his support for Chagos Islands deal. PM has surrendered to wokeism, says President. Yeah, if you really cared about it enough, though, you would have put on loads more pressure a long time before this. I mean, maybe it's not too late. I think it's too late. I think the deal was done, sort of legally, last year, I think. I mean, in a way, there's nothing can't be undone, even if it leads to a war with Mauritius. It's not like it can't be undone. But I think it's a bit late. I think the deal is done like, in terms of just legal stuff. I think. All right. Eighth force joins Epstein files investigation. Papers can't seem to make up their mind how many police forces are investigating Andrew, can they? Okay, the Daily Mail, complete slop, trying to pretend it's not slop. Janet Street Porter, a disgusting Karen. Absolutely obnoxious Karen. One of the worst Karens you could imagine. Why, after 4 failed marriages, that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I've tried the knot again at 79. Couldn't care less. Dirty harridan. Ugh, go away, retire. Stop. Janet Street Porter, you're 80, you're knocking 80, love. Give it a rest. Britain faces 1936 moment, Defence Chiefs warn PM. Ex-ministers and former military leaders invoke spectre of World War II. We weren't armed adequately enough by the beginning of World War II. The spectre of World War II as they accuse Starmer of not being honest on MOD spending. Yeah, a tiny little bit of the blurb reads. Military and spy chiefs last night demanded Sir Keir Starmer commit to doubling defence spending as they warned Britain faces a 1936 moment. Again, that's where by 1936 it sort of started looking extremely likely that there would be another European-wide conflagration, and that Britain at that moment had very, very, very little in terms of a standing army and a large amount of fighter planes, up-to-date fighter planes, and we just weren't ready for war in every way imaginable in 1936. I mean, barely by 1939, but there you go. All right, apparently we're facing a 1936 moment. Seems a bit hyperbolic to me, but who knows? I don't know what the future holds. 9 police forces probe Epstein claims as pressure mounts for full inquiry. 9. They really can't make up their mind, can they, how many it is? But it's many. Can take that away. It's multiple ones. All right. The Financial Times. The guard to depart European Central Bank helm early so that Macron and Merz can pick successor. That's cynical, isn't it? It's annoying, cynical, but hey. The guard was always their stooge. So, is what it is. Yeah, the European Central Bank. Yeah, like the Germans, basically. The word for the Germans. Harry, can you have a look at this camera again? It's not in focus again. At least when you're zoomed in like that. When it's zoomed out like that, it's not too bad. Anyway. Alright, actually, don't worry about it too much. Don't worry about it too much. Right. Is what it is. 8-year term to be curtailed. That's the guard's term as the European Central Bank. Move likely before French poll. Concern over Eurosceptics rise. Okay, they're terrified of Eurosceptic stuff, aren't they? Alright. British... Okay, don't care about that. Okay, the iPaper. Epstein trafficking police in plea for witnesses as Met examines Andrew bodyguard claims. Yeah, so... I said the other day, didn't I? I said a couple of times, I think, in the past now, that Andrew lived for years and years and years, it seems, doing whatever he wanted in terms of, women, getting women in, models, strippers, dancers, prostitutes, victims of human trafficking, whatever. And he seemed to have carte blanche to sort of get them into royal residences and royal estates, and no one asked any questions. They were just sort of known as, oh, that's one of Andrew's girls, But then, yeah, the actual police unit, the bodyguard police protection unit that's assigned to the royals, if you think about it for a moment, well, so there's one thing just to turn a blind eye, isn't there? And there's another thing to sort of be actively involved in the process of it. So what did they know? Were they complicit? How and to what extent were they complicit? Have they got any real questions to answer? Well, the iPaper says, Surrey Police urges people with information to come forward about allegations of human trafficking and sexual assault dating back to the 90s that appeared in the Epstein files. Met Police examine claims about what Andrew Saxe Coburg Gotha's former bodyguards may have witnessed while protecting him during his friendship with the convicted paedophile. Yeah, if there's any actual like witnesses, because often things like this come down to he said, she said. So the more witnesses will be necessary probably, but not just what they might have witnessed, what they were complicit in. You know, did those police officers know that they were looking at and dealing with victims of human trafficking? It goes on saying, former Royal Protection Officer tells the iPaper that reports into the former prince's conduct following the release of the Epstein files had sent a, quote, wildfire, quote, around the command unit. Yeah, I bet it did. Sorry, still try not to slurp into the mic too much. Yeah, I bet it sent a wildfire around that command unit. Yeah, it's like, oh, we've been doing bad stuff, essentially, at least by omission, for years and years and years. And if it all came out, it would make us look terrible. Maybe we'd lose we'd lose our jobs. Maybe we'd lose our pensions. Maybe we'd lose our liberty. Who knows how deep the rot went? Were those people in that command unit, were they actually actively part of the human trafficking process to get it to Andrew's bed? I don't know. Who knows? Senior MP ramps up pressure on the ex-Duke to give evidence in Parliament, saying he has, quote, avoided scrutiny for a decade, quote. Well, longer than a decade, isn't it? As cross-party committee considers opening investigation. There you go. Still nothing in the papers about Larry Summers or Mohammed bin Salman or Sergey Brin. Yep, still not talking about that. Ugh, look, there's Yasmin Alibaba Brown there. Ugh. What a revolting fifth columnist. Again, just remind you who she is. She's a woman of Indian ethnicity, of Muslim religion, born and raised in Africa, in Uganda, and only came to Britain after she'd finished uni in her early 20s. So no connection to Britain, ethnically, religiously, in terms of where she was born. And now she wants to tell us that there's something wrong with nativism in Britain. Look, Reform's nativism, they're not nativist. Reform aren't nativist. They pack their ranks with as many foreign people as they can, it seems like. They're actively non-nativist. But nonetheless, it's enough to spook Yasmin Al-Amani Brown on the fake outrage. She says, Reform's nativism will extinguish everything good about Britain. Well, who are you to say what's good about Britain? Who are you to tell us anything about or any of this? Why don't you go back to Uganda or India? So basically, nativism, anything that's pro-nativism, would extinguish everything good about Britain. Yasmin Alibaba Brown. These fifth columnists, absolutely insane, seditious traitor. You're going to tell us that there's something wrong with nativism in our own country, in our own ancestral homeland. That any form of nativism, even the most weak, lily-livered, even lip service to nativism, like Reform do, even that will just extinguish everything good about Britain. Who are you to make that judgment? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Disgusting scumbag, that's who she is. Get out of my country. Look at her. Crazy old lady. Crazy old foreign lady telling us what we can or can't think. What is or isn't good for us. Mental. Right. The Daily Mirror. They go with the story about Tony Martin's fortune. If anyone doesn't remember, Harry, this might even be before your time. This guy kept getting harassed by some people, kept breaking into his house. Farmer. They kept doing it. Like the police basically wouldn't do anything about it. Then in the end he waited for them with a shotgun. He shot one. I think maybe he shot two of them. But anyway, he shot one of them. One of them died, certainly. He went to prison for it. Like in America, you can do that. People break into your house, or most states anyway. People break into your house, you're allowed to defend yourself. Shoot them dead, and you won't go to prison for it. But here, you can't do that. Crazy, right? Crazy. Just got to let people break into your house. Anyway, so he went to prison for it. Not for ages. It's not like he got like 25 years, but still, he went to prison for it. And then he died. And he was a farmer, relatively rich farmer, semi-wealthy. Well, he had £2.5 million. That's pretty wealthy, isn't it? and he gave it away to some woman, some landlady he knew. That's it. That's the story. That's the front page for the Mirror. The absolute slop that is the Mirror. The absolute globalist leftist slop. Okay, the Express. Oh, it's a good paper. Robert Jenrick trying to pretend he knows about economics there. He doesn't know. Doesn't know anything about economics. All right. Grooming gang survivor Ellie Reynolds says a PM meeting request has been ignored. Proof Starmer does not care about victims of rape. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. Like, it's more about just trying to cover it up. More about trying to make sure that the entire Labour movement, the entire Labour Party isn't completely consumed by the scandal of it all, when it really should be. Yeah. She talks about how, the main inquiry, not Rupert Lowe's inquiry, which was great, by the way. Well, terrible. Terrible what was actually in it. But the official government one, that's supposed to be the formal one, the real one, if you like, hashtag the real inquiry, whatever. With Jess Phillips and stuff. That's just some sort of sham. It's corrupt. These survivors themselves that were called in to take part in it, they've called it corrupt, and they said it's toxic and controlling, and it's stage managed. These are all quotes, all things like that. It is basically an exercise in trying to not make it all about Pakistani rapists. Trying to muddy the waters. Like, there's also a handful of white people that are involved as well. Like, trying to make it all about that. Trying to make it about a general purpose inquiry into sex crime. No, this is supposed to be about the Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs, rape gangs. And then when these people quit, some of these people quit, because Jess Phillips and that whole process was so obviously stage managed, quote, stage managed, to prevent like the full extent of the truth coming out. They tried to want to meet with Keir Starmer to voice their concerns, anything like that. Nope, we stonewall them, not interested. Nope. No, you're white, I don't care about you, says Keir Starmer. Nope. Care more about the cohesion of the community. The Muslim community must be protected. Can anyone think of the poor rapists and the effect on their community? But the victims, no, you can be ignored, quite literally stonewalled and ignored. Yep, that's the Labour government. That's Labour for you. That's leftists for you. That's globalism for you. That there's no amount of outrage or crime to be committed against us that they would care about. No amount. No. You have an Afghan asylum seeker just openly in broad daylight just stab up a random dog walker in the street. Just stab him multiple times on camera. Not a dicky bird. Don't talk about it. No. Some Rwandan commits a slaughter of the innocents and you're angry about that in any way, you're the problem. They will guarantee that they'll come after you if you have a problem with that. There you go. That's globalism. That's the world Yasmin Alibaba Brown would want for you. Can't have nativist sentiment. You can't have it. That would extinguish everything good about Britain. Any nativist sentiment. All right. That dynamic can't last forever. It won't last forever. Guarantee you that. The Guardian. The Guardian. Absolutely sickening. Turns my stomach. It's too early in the morning for something so revolting as The Guardian. All right, they say sites could be blocked over revenge porn and deepfakes. They really care about deepfakes, don't they? They really, really care about it. Not actual sex crime against women and children. Now, that will be covered up and brushed over and lied about by omission endlessly. But deep fakes, that's beyond the pale. Deep fakes, the entire machinery of government must be brought to bear to prevent that at all costs. Mental, isn't it? Mental. PM to give platforms 48 hours to delete abusive and sexualised images. Okay. All right. The Zuck is in court. Not personally. It's not like he's personally going to go to prison or anything. But the Zuck is in court. You can't cuck the Zuck. Well, you can a bit. So, yeah, there's a big trial going on in LA, I believe. All about, basically, the nature of various social media platforms, whether they're addictive. And he's testifying in it. The Zuck. Ruthless human robot Mark Zuckerberg. Weirdo autist Mark Zuckerberg. Right. Gaza death toll 25,000 higher than estimated. Don't start a war against a force that is vastly superior to yours. Then what can I say? I'm not pro-Zionist. I'm not pro-Israel. I'm not pro-Netanyahu. But what do you want? Start a war with an army that's vastly more powerful than you. One follows the other. Trump, Starmer making big mistake over Chagos. Yeah, it is, isn't it? The Metro. Oof. Oof. The Metro. Bad taste in my mouth. Absolutely. So, oh yeah, do you remember yesterday we briefly covered the story of this retarded person, of this almost certainly clinically retarded person here, this 21-year-old foreign person. He's literally foreign. He should be deported. He was going through the process of being deported. He's a criminal. He has done multiple crimes, robberies, and then broke out of prison. They recaptured him. He broke out again. It's actually quite funny. I mean, kind of. Terrible and absurd, but also a bit funny. They'll get him again. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They'll catch him again because he's stupid. Because he's a very, very stupid person. Yeah, look, you made a little video gloating about it. Look, he's at home. He's got his blunt going on. He's got his hoodie up. Some of the lyrics were obviously terrible. I broke out, says joint smoking drill performer jailed for knife robberies and due to be deported. Yeah. Sooner he gets out of our country, the better. All these people need to be deported. If you're a foreign national and you've done anything wrong, and I'm talking about a parking ticket, you should be deported. If you've got any dependents, they can go with you. We don't want to break up families. Your whole family can go. Let alone someone that does actual violent crime, knife robberies. If you came here from a foreign country but got citizenship and then did things like that, we'll revoke your citizenship. You can go back to the land of your ancestors. Millions must go. Millions must go. Aim high, vote low. Millions must go. Restore. Let's go. Rupert. Prince Rupert for the win. All right. Some nonsense about Prince William. Don't care. Obsessive and dysfunctional. IFS lays into Reeves. What is that? The Institute for Fiscal Studies, is it? Is that what the IFS is? Does it say somewhere? I think that's what the IFS is. Anyway, yeah. A think tank that deals with... yeah, that's right. Sorry, yeah, that's right. Institute for Fiscal Studies. They say that... is obsessive and dysfunctional. Major blow for Chancellor despite surprising drop in inflation. Oh yeah, inflation has gone down to merely 3% today. Brilliant. They're stealing money out of your pocket at a slightly slower rate. Taking money from you. Of course, it's not exactly stealing, is it? Well, some might characterise it that way. I've often characterised taxes as state-sponsored theft. Inflation isn't really theft, although again you could characterise it that way if you wanted to, but they're taking money from you at a slow rate. They're still taking it from you day by day. Everything you buy, just taking it away from you, but at an ever so slightly slower rate. Brilliant. Yeah, the Institute for Fiscal Studies says the warns of a fixation on fiscal rules, and it triggers bad policy decisions and can break her promise to deliver sustainable public finances. Well, she's not going to deliver sustainable public finances because she's a slave to leftist economic theory, which always fails. So it's not really, is it, about a fixation with fiscal rules? It's not really that she's too obsessive. But it is that she's dysfunctional. Her worldview, her economic view, is highly dysfunctional because it's leftist, because it's socialist. It's a stripe of socialist economic theory which always fails. Always. Show me one example throughout history where leftist or socialist economic theory led to growth and prosperity. Oh, wait. Not some weird little hybrid like Norway. Something like that. But an actual socialist country. Oh, wait. No? Nothing? No? Okay, let's move on. The Daily Star, what slop are they serving up for us? There's something about Beckham, what nonsense. Yeah, Beckham got rid of his, Brooklyn Beckham this is, he got rid of his tattoos, but he does still wear the £220,000 gold watch that Daddy gave him. David gave him an extremely expensive watch and he's still wearing it. That's the most important thing going on. That's worthy of front page news, according to the Star. It is, isn't it? Everything that's going on in the world. We may be right on the brink of a war with Iran. They go with that Brooklyn Beckham is wearing a particular type of watch. Deeply, deeply unserious, isn't it? The Sun, pure slop from the Sun, of course. There's going to be a new law come in that says for big football games, World Cup games and stuff, that may be going on somewhere else entirely in the world, pubs can stay open until 1 a.m. Another story I've seen says that they can stay open until 2 a.m. Swig when you're winning. Anyone who doesn't get that, there's a football chant that says sing when you're winning. Or sometimes you chant it at the other side when you go 1-0 up or something. The other side have stopped singing. And you sing at them. You only sing when you're winning. Get it? So, swig when you're winning. Very clever. Very clever. Had a team of wordsmiths working around the clock on that one. All right. Let's look at our poll. What was the poll today? Harry, make it so. Engage. Okay. We said, should the regime in Iran be forcibly removed? There you go. So, often I want to try and make the poll, not an obvious slam dunk. It might split opinion. And so, it has a little bit there. But you guys said, about 1,000 of you, just shy of 1,000 of you, said, 51% of you said yes. Yes, the regime in Iran should be forcibly removed. 26% of you say no, and 23% of you say maybe. So, that's a win for the yes, it should be removed. It's a win. But, not an overwhelming one. Again, if it was an actual national plebiscite, an actual mandate, an actual referendum, you could claim a solid win, because only 26% of people said no. So it's a solid win. But still, not overwhelming though, is it? It's not like 80-90% of you all agree on it. Yeah, I'm the same. If you watch the Beau show, I think I said yesterday, didn't I? Was it even yesterday? Some of these days blur into one. I think it was just yesterday. I said, if I could just push a button and nobody got hurt, I could just click my fingers, not a single person got hurt, I would change that regime in Iran. The problem is, isn't it? The concern is that it turns into a 2003 Iraq-style nightmare. That's the concern, isn't it? That if Trump, does weeks' worth of hundreds and hundreds of fast jet sorties, destroying thousands of targets in Iran, hundreds of cruise missiles raining down for weeks, that the net result, and it finally removes the Ayatollahs, that regime finally collapses. The worry is Iran, Persia just descends into complete chaos for a generation. And hundreds of thousands, millions of people live in misery. That's the concern, isn't it? But anyway, nonetheless, there you go. So it is a difficult question. It's not sort of a straight up obvious thing, is it? It's not. There's no real right or wrong answer, particularly. Whatever happens, it's going to be a rocky road. Even if you just completely leave them alone and leave the people of Iran to just endlessly toil under the oppression of that regime and an economy that's in the absolute toilet. No economy, really. Insane inflation. Well, you can't buy bread and cheese and things for your family. Just let that go on forever. And religious oppression. The options, whatever you do, the options aren't great, are they? All right, anyway, it's now ticked up. 52% of you say yes, that Iran regime should be forcibly removed. All right, well, there you go. All right, fair enough. I guess I am in agreement with you. I guess so. It's not... I find it difficult to be a hawk about it, though. I'm not hawkish about it. You know? Not gung-ho. As much as I despise that regime. And of course there's the whole angle that it's what Bibi wants. Although I'm not going to cut my nose off to spite my face just because I happen to agree with something me and Bibi happen to agree on something. I'm not going to pretend I don't think that thing now. But nonetheless, I'm not hawkish about the Iran thing. It's not Venezuela, is it? It's not Venezuela. It's not the Falkland Islands. It is a melting pot and always has been. What there could well be in Iran crazy, unbelievable forces unleashed, just like removing Saddam. I think there are many different groups, ethnicities even in Iran. Loads of Arabs live in Iran. Right, Persians and Arabs are different, aren't they? Very different people. And then lots of other different types of people. It's a massive country with all different demands and yeah, it's always needed a strong man one way or another, like either the Shah, the old king, the Shah of Iran, or an Ayatollah, like a strong man figure, a brutal figure, like Saddam. And if you remove that, everyone's allowed to do whatever they want. Will it descend into a nightmare? I profoundly worry about that. All right. Okay, let's have a look at the websites. PM says, nobody is above the law over Andrew allegations, apart from some of your friends. Right? Apart from Lord Hermer. Nobody is above the law. Who do you think you're kidding with that? Yeah, let's see if you're above the law, Sakir, after you get out of office. Let's see about that. If Andrew Bridgen is correct, you've done some dodgy things, particularly around Chagos. Let's see if you're above the law. Once you're no longer in number 10, which will probably be sometime soon. Alright, Trump says don't give away Diego Garcia. Yeah. White House says Iran would be wise to make deal as US ramps up military presence. That's a bit like the emperor. You would be wise. It would be in your... It's pretty sinister, isn't it? It would be in your interests to do as you're told. Get all Ming the Merciless about it. Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, just yesterday, it was all over Twitter. Well, all over my timeline of Twitter. Shows the sort of people I follow. But there was... lots and lots of mid-air refueling aviation tankers were making their way from the continental United States and the various air bases in Europe, in Britain and Europe, in Germany and the UK. Loads of them, or nearly all of them, were making their way to the Middle East region. The various air bases like Doha and is it in Jordan, or using Cyprus, or getting them onto those aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf, the mid-air refueling aircraft, aerial tankers. People do watch where they go around the world, like it's sort of some sort of open source information. Like people know what they're doing, like keep their eyes on, like train watchers, but for aeroplanes. And unless it's a top secret spy plane, I don't think you could do it with the B-2 bombers. But for just a relatively normal military aircraft, like a mid-air refuel tanker thing, people can and do track where they are in the world at any given time. Right? They're all moving to the Middle East. Nearly all. Okay, so that would be worrying if you were part of the Iranian regime. You know, I've said this yesterday, and I've been saying it for a week or two now. Things like, you don't just move carrier groups around for no reason. It costs a lot of money. You don't usually put two carrier groups next to each other, effectively, or in the same region, if you haven't got a serious plan, serious idea that you might actually use them. Again, you don't move dozens and dozens, or is it in the low hundreds? Certainly dozens and dozens of aerial tankers flying refueling station aeroplanes to a region if you don't intend to be doing lots and lots of sorties. At the very, very least, at the absolute least, what it says is that the Pentagon, Hegseth and the Pentagon, want to give Trump the option, want to be able to put on his desk, saying, if you want to pull the trigger on this thing, it's up to you. The buck stops with you in the Oval. But if you did want to fly hundreds or maybe thousands of sorties against Iran over the next few weeks, we logistically, physically can do that if you want to do it. It's like, no, now it's up to you. We'll just back away slowly from that. It's your decision. But if you did want to do it, but if you did fancy that, we can do it. That's what's going on. That's what it is now. So, all this talk of, okay, you get it. What else much is there to say? They're building up everything they would need to do a giant, at least an air campaign, a large air campaign against Iran. Now, it's not like 2003, although it is the biggest air armada the US has put in the region since 2003. But they're not sending over it doesn't look like anyway, there's no been reports that they actually mobilised a massive chunk of the Marine Corps or the actual army, the infantry, the big red one, or anything. They haven't mobilised the 101st Airborne or anything like that. They're not sending over whole armoured divisions, tank divisions. But in terms of airstrikes, yeah. They're very nearly, if not already now, some reports we might see in a minute, saying that point in time when Hegseth can say to Trump, if you want to give us a green light, we're ready. That could be as early as this weekend. Actually, it's like correction. I must correct myself from yesterday. I talked about the USS Gerald R. Ford getting to the Persian Gulf from the Atlantic, and it would have to double the Cape. It'd have to go round the bottom of Africa, South Africa, not taking into account that the Suez Canal exists. More than 100 years behind the time. Sorry about that. Of course, you could just go through. You don't have to go around the bottom of Africa, do you? You can sail through the Mediterranean and then through the Suez Canal, down the Red Sea, and do it that way if you needed to, if you wanted to. Okay, so yesterday I'd forgot that the Suez Canal existed. Alright. Alright, no, serious, it's not funny. America will be in a position, if the Donald wants to smash the Iranians from the air to bits, like bouncing rubble. take out thousands of targets in the space of a few days, a week or two, and then just start bouncing the rubble. It's up to the Ayatollah, isn't it? If he wants to actually prevent that, I suppose it is up to him. Maybe it's too late for that even. Maybe, who knows? The planners, the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon and Hegseth and Trump and Rubio might have already made the decision. That's totally possible. Starting moving all these aerial tankers. All right, let's move on. Oh yeah, this couple in Iran, the British couple, have been detained for being spies, or been sentenced to 10 years in prison in Iran for being spies. Who knows if they were or not? I suspect they weren't, but they might have been. They were just going on some sort of round-the-world trip. Harry, can you tell them to not... God. Sorry, you probably couldn't even hear that. Probably picked up on the mic. People outside the studio talking too loud. All right, this couple sentenced to 10 years in Iran for spying. Apparently they were just on a holiday, some sort of motorbike or cycling holiday, something. They were just in a holiday through Iran. First of all, don't do that. Don't do that. So it seems to me very unlikely they're accused of espionage, of being spies. Almost certainly weren't. Although, if like the Foreign Office or MI6, quite often that is the way it goes. You're not actually necessarily an actual officer, an intelligence officer, an espionage agent. Often it is just relatively normal people. They've got some sort of connection with them, vague connection, friends and family of and stuff. And they're like, oh, you happen to be going on a holiday through Uzbekistan or something. Well, on the way, could you just, if you can, just take a few pictures of like this area near an airport or something. There's particular hangars we might be interested in if you get pictures of that. So you're not formally working for them, but you are doing espionage. Whether this was the case with this couple, who knows? Personally, I doubt it, but maybe. I don't know. The thing that seems really, really dodgy about it is that their trial lasted 3 hours. And they did, apparently, according to the accounts, they weren't allowed any sort of defence. They weren't allowed to speak in their defence or anything. That sounds like a kangaroo court thing, doesn't it? It sounds like it was nonsense. Once again, I have no idea if these are actual spies or not, but if I had to put a tenner on it, I'd say they weren't. There you go. All right, terrible. Terrible for their family, for them and their family. All right, let's see what else have we got. Yeah, same thing, that family in Iran. It is a bit like perfect timing, like if we're going to go to war with a certain country, ramp up a little bit of annoyance with that country. That's a classic thing. All right, the Mail goes with world on edge. It's not really the world, is it? Not really the world. It's Iran. Iran has sort of thoroughly alienated itself since 1979. They haven't got any partners, really. Remember when, not that long ago, a few weeks ago, both China and Russia came out. They were both asked, I think on the same day or within a few days of each other, one way or another, were asked if America and or Israel started sort of heavily bombing Iran, what would your military response be? And they both said nothing. Like, really upfront about it. Yeah, the Russians were like, yeah, no, nothing. Of course, nothing. The Chinese were like, please, of course we won't get involved in that. Not in a million years, we wouldn't dream of it, basically, the Chinese said. So, there you go. Okay. What else have we got? Here's a slightly interesting thing. Did Beatrice, i.e. Prince Andrew's daughter, one of his daughters, how did Beatrice afford her 20s jet-set lifestyle? Princess went on 17 holidays a year whilst earning £19,500. Now a royal expert says questions must be asked about how her jaunts were funded amid Epstein revelations. Yeah, I mean, it's not like that family are short of a few bob. Even if she was making merely a token wage, 19,500, still, her family, certainly very, very rich, like the Duchy of Lancaster, like her uncle, Prince Charles, personally very, very rich. Prince Charles as was then. Personally. Doesn't just have to ask the Treasury for it. The family have got lots of money, of course. I don't know. I don't know if that's much of a story or not. Janet Street Porter. Oh, how revolting. How revolting. Brooklyn Beckham. Was there any other story that was of any particular note? No, should we have a look at the Sun? I remember in one or two of the Sun stories, a classic slop. We have to quickly get through the slop here. Swig when you're winning. Yeah. Andrew, sure. Oh, the real Donnie Brasco guy. Probably quite interesting. You ever seen the film Donnie Brasco? Have you ever seen the film Donnie Brasco, Harry?
No. Is it really good?
Yeah, it's really good, yeah. It's all about gangsters. And Johnny Depp was an undercover FBI agent. Anyway, that's the real Donnie Brasco, that dude. And they've got a story with him. Oh, yeah, Zed out of Pulp Fiction. He committed suicide a while ago, a few weeks ago. He killed himself. And the story is that we now know how he killed himself. Bit macabre, isn't it? He shot himself through the left armpit. All right. Okay. This guy went apparently a Brit. He went and fought for Russia, and now he's probably dead. He called himself Drone Bait. Weird, isn't it? There's this story. Gang busted. Cops smash organised crime family, running drug empire and forcing kids as young as 12 into slavery in daring dawn raids. It was all across the north of England, I think a bit into Wales, something like that. A drugs family. No mention of their names or origins or ethnicity or anything. Whether they're Irish, Albanian, Pakistani. No mention of who they actually are. Yeah, it's a long article, quite a long article. Of like, no mention of their names, this clan. Look, it says, what did it say? Yesterday morning, 22 doors were smashed down by police in dawn raids across Manchester, Salford, Merseyside and Wales to stop a violent clan that has rained down fear for more than a decade. Yeah, no mention of their names or who they are really. Well, it's a bit suspicious, isn't it? When the corporate mainstream media don't tell you any of that detail. Because you know, if they were all English and their name was Smith, they'll tell you that. Wouldn't blur their faces out. We're used to it now, aren't we? Used to it. All right, let's hop across the pond. The New York Slimes. Yeah, they're talking about the Iran thing. So it does seem like it's ramping up. U.S. military moves into place for possible strikes in Iran. Yeah. Where the U.S. is building up military force near Iran. It tells you all the different places. Well, would that be Cyprus there? There's a big base in Jordan. I guess if the carrier comes down through the Suez Canal, it'll be in the Red Sea there. Come out here. Yeah, the carrier command group in Doha. Is that where Doha is, isn't it? Is that right? It's near there, isn't it? Should know exactly. Okay, alright, so America's building up loads of military assets. Everything you need to do a sustained air campaign. Very nearly there, if not there already, by the weekend, everything. Okay, the Washington Post, the dying on its ass Washington Post, because it's so woke. New DHS, Department of Homeland Security, memo outlines plan to detain refugees for further vetting. Yeah, good. What an insane thing to just let anyone who claims to be a refugee into your country. What an insane dynamic that always was. Anyone turns up on your shores, and all they have to do is just say, I am a refugee. Doesn't matter if their country of origin is experiencing war or anything, you can just say it. Just say, I'm a refugee. Oh, but isn't your country of origin perfectly safe? No, but I'm a refugee from there, though. I'm a child. Well, you look like you're 30. No, but I'm 15. You do look like you're 30, though. No, I'm 15 and I'm a refugee. I'm fleeing persecution. What persecution? Yeah, make vetting better for anyone who claims to be a refugee. Yeah, do that. And if it's fake and phony, send them back. All right. Let's have a look. Australia, there wasn't much in Australia interesting in the USA. Let's go straight to the Ruskies. Zelensky's future hinges on corruption evidence, says ex-PM of Ukraine. Well, there's tons. The Ukrainian government is insanely corrupt. Obviously so. Obviously. It's not just my take, that's not just my opinion. It's a matter of record. It is absurdly corrupt. Haven't European countries, Western European countries and the United States given them billions and billions and billions and billions of pounds, dollars? Where's it all gone? Where? When Congress started making noises about we want some sort of paper trail, we want to know where every single dollar of that went. It's like, no, not doing that. Yeah, obviously it's corrupt. And when is Vladimir Zelensky going to hold elections again? Ever? Ever? He's got to pass tighter anti-Semitism hate speech laws, hasn't he? He's got to do that first, probably. Even tighter ones than they've already got in Ukraine. He's got to do crap like that first, hasn't he? Would have thought. Before he'd hold elections again. All right. The Russians say US gather largest air force group in region since Iraq invasion. Yeah. Apparently the B-2s are on standby. They can fly straight from America. Where are they based? In Missouri? Something like that. But with mid-air refueling, they can fly from there to anywhere in the world and back. And they're on standby. They're ready to rock and roll if needs must. All right, look out. Russian delegations return from Geneva to Moscow. They weren't really invited. Well, not that they weren't invited, but they're not really part of the discussion, are they, really? It's between Iran and the US. Right, Bild, what are the Germans talking about? Same old slop. Same old slop today in the German media. Nothing of particular note. The French, let's have a look at what the French are talking about. Oh, some of the Epstein stuff has actually spilled over into French politics. Epstein files hand French prosecutors trove of new leads. So this is a guy, Jack Lang was a guy that was part of the French establishment, important French politician person, a while ago, back in like the 80s and 90s, is it? He's like an older person now, but back in the 90s when Epstein was doing a lot of things in his stuff. He's been implicated in it. Paris prosecutor's office opened 2 investigations on Wednesday, one into human trafficking and the other regarding financial offences such as money laundering, breaches of probity and tax fraud. How Epstein scandal brought down Jack Lang. The emblematic minister from President Francois Mitterrand's era was forced to step down as president of the Arab World Institute in Paris. Former allies and rivals have begun to speak out about a man who used his influence and network to maintain a lavish lifestyle. Yeah, look, dirty little wrong in there. Mixed up in all the Epstein stuff. Jack Lang, revolting little freak of a man. Alright, let's have a look at On This Day in History. You like that, and I quite like it. So let's do a bit of this. On this day, on the 19th of February, through the centuries, what happened of note? We're told in 356, Roman Emperor Constantius II closes all pagan temples. Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I love the age of Constantine I. Constantius II is his son, one of his sons. The various bits in Edward Gibbon about the reign of Constantine are fascinating. I'm absolutely going to do a bit of content on, probably long form, maybe a mini-series on epochs behind the paywall on lotus.com. All about the age and life and career of Constantine I, Constantine the Great, Constantius' father. Again, sort of an unbelievable story, the set of events. The Roman Empire completely fractured and broken up, civil wars. and then he just unites it all, just wins everything, just has war after war after war until he's the last man standing. That's Constantine the Great. Something similar happened to his son, Constantius II. Quite similar in a way. Once Daddy dies, the empire's broken up a bit between his couple of different sons, 3 different sons, and then there's a couple of usurpers thrown in there as well. The Parthian ruler out in the east gets stuck in after a generation or more of peace. The whole Roman Empire starts fracturing and breaking apart again. Constantius II almost recreates what his father did, just has war after war with all comers, including his own brother, including the emperor of the Parthians, including any usurpers. One after the other, just beats them all until he's the last man standing, the sole emperor again. Remarkable. Anyway, one of the things he did, in the vein of his father, was to be Christian and not pagan, worshipping Jupiter and Saturn and things. So yeah, he was a staunch Christian. It's after that you've got Julian the Apostate, we mentioned yesterday. Obviously, Christians call him an apostate. To be an apostate is to sort of renounce religion, isn't it? So as far as Christians are concerned, he was an apostate. So it wasn't like Constantine comes in, the Roman world becomes Christian, and that's it, it's just Christian forever. No, there was a blip back to paganism. Anyway, Constantius II there was... Well, on this day, he closes all pagan temples. There you go. All right. On this day, in 1600, Peruvian stratovolcano, and I don't know how you pronounce this properly, but it looks like it's Ayanaputina. A giant Peruvian stratovolcano explodes in the most violent eruption in South American recorded history on this day in the year 1600. Stratovolcano, you don't want to be near that, do you? You're not going to have a good day, okay? All right. On this day in 1878, Thomas Edison is granted a patent for his cylinder phonograph. You can record things. You can record audio things for the first time. Thomas Edison, fascinating life, Thomas Edison. Bit of a douchebag, personally. Well, he was. Probably not a particularly nice person. Fascinating life and career, though, nonetheless. Everything that happened sort of around him. Fascinating. All right, on this day in 1942, an estimated 115 Japanese warplanes attacked the Australian city of Darwin. That's a little known thing. I'm fascinated by the war in the Pacific. I've made content all about the war in the Pacific. And Australians will know all about this, probably. Australian history nerds certainly will know all about it. People that are fans of the war in the Pacific will know all about it, but most other people don't. How close the Japanese came to invading Australia. Right, they got all the way down there. Right, they're in the Solomons, and like the Americans had to turn their back at Guadalcanal and stuff. It was far from inconceivable that the Imperial Japanese Army in World War II could have invaded Australia. It came close. Well, there you go. I mean, on this day, they did air raids on Darwin, which is right in the north of Australia, isn't it? Right at the very top. It took the might of both the British Navy, but mainly the American Navy to sort of essentially prevent that in the end. And the Australians fought very bravely in the war in the Pacific. The Americans, or like sort of popular history, armchair history, likes to make you think that it was the Americans did absolutely everything in the war in the Pacific against Japan, all on their own. No, the British were involved. The Americans didn't like it, but we were involved tangentially, in various ways actually, and were the Australians. The Australians fought very, very bravely. A lot of casualties, very bravely. All right, on this same day, was it? Yeah, the same day in 1942, FDR orders the detention and internment of all Japanese Americans on the West Coast. Some bleeding heart liberals look back on that and say that was really bad. That was like an act of tyranny and stuff. It was probably prudent, wasn't it? It was a bit out of order. A bit, maybe. probably could argue it was prudent. All right, well, it happened. On this day in 1945, US Fifth Fleet launches invasion of Iwo Jima against the Japanese with 30,000 US Marines. Yeah, I've got a bit of content about Iwo Jima. Is that Mount Suribachi in the middle of one end of Iwo Jima, where they finally took it? That to fight the Marines and the Army. Had to fight tooth and claw for every inch. Certain parts of Iwo Jima, not the whole island, but certain parts of it. Particularly that hill. The whole stinking hill. Had to fight for it. In fact, I believe that image is... I don't want to get the details wrong because it's such an iconic image, but I think, if memory serves, what happened was the Marines or the Army, whoever it was, the US forces, take that hill and they put a flag up. But then the Japanese retook it. And then when the Americans retook it again, they put a flag up again. But then they wanted to have a picture taken of it. So they took that flag down and then did it again. And that's what that picture is. So it's sort of it's real. It's on Iwo Jima. It really is active members of the services putting their flag on top of it, but it's not exactly sort of in the heat of the firefight. Although then I've also saw other accounts that say that one or two of those guys in that picture were hit by fire shortly after that image was taken as well. So I think even though it was the second or even the third time they'd put the flag up, the area there was still enemy fire going on in the area at the time as well. So anyway, it's a very, very, very iconic image, isn't it? Very, very iconic image. Iwo Jima, some terrible, terrible fighting went on in Iwo Jima. A lot of these island hoppings at Peleliu, at Okinawa. And loads of them, actually, when you look at it in detail. Dozens of islands where there was some terrible fighting. The Americans had to use tanks that had been converted to be giant flamethrowers, roasting the Japanese alive and things. Very brutal, very, very brutal parts of the war in the Pacific. All right, that's the show. We've got to the top of the hour. Shall we do a few super chats? There's no rubble rents today, and there's only a few super chats. But okay. All right. Global Church History says we cannot just retake. Can we not just retake Mauritius as well? Yeah. The Americans would be capable of that, wouldn't they? Absolutely, militarily, logistically, physically capable of invading Mauritius if they really, really needed to. If they've decided it was a matter of sort of global strategy, yeah, they could do that very easily. So yeah, I mean, whether they would, because probably all the bleeding heart people in Europe, like, how out of their pram did they get about just talking about Greenland? So imagine if Trump or whoever, J.D. Vance or someone, just completely unilaterally invaded Mauritius, who haven't actually done anything aggressive, in terms of kinetic warfare, haven't done anything aggressive against the United States. They just invade them. I mean, America aren't above such things. Look at Panama, Grenada, whatever. Yeah, they could. Yeah, they could just invade Mauritius if they wanted to. Yeah. All right. Global Church History also says, Battle of Lyon, Rome's bloodiest, was today in the year 197 AD. Okay. Battle of Lyon, 197 AD. What are we talking then? This is all off the top of my head. Who would have been Roman emperor around then? I can't recall, That's interesting, though. I don't know if it was Rome's bloodiest. There was a battle in the First Punic War where over 250,000 men died. You have to remind me. Maybe you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. You may well be right. The Battle of Cannae was pretty bloody, wasn't it? Against Hannibal in the Second Punic War. The Romans did get smashed up quite a number of times throughout history. Anyway, I'm sorry, the Battle of Lyon, I have to it's not coming to mind exactly who would have been Roman emperor then and what that campaign was all about, I must admit. Okay. Field Marshal Dawn Browning says, I love seeing so many beautiful people, aka beautifuls, in the chat. You know who you are. Moi. Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Field Marshal Browning. Thank you. And then the last one for today, Mr. Dicky Bingo, not Dinky Bingo, Mr. Dicky Bingo says, we all know what Welshman is code for. Right, yeah. Yeah, like that Rudy Britan or whatever his name was. Can't even remember what his surname was. He was just a Welsh choir boy. Yeah. That's now code, isn't it? A Welshman. A Welsh choir boy. A barbarian within the gates. An enemy of the people. Yeah. Oh, and just quickly come in there. Dawn Brown again says nothing, but just gives another $5. Very much appreciate that. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you for watching. Everyone, thank you for watching. The glorious band, the chosen few. My band of brothers and sisters. All right, that's the time. It's just gone 6 minutes past 9 in the AM, Greenwich Mean Time, on Thursday, the 19th of February, in the year of our Lord 2026. Thank you for tuning in, and try and make the best of the day ahead if you can. I know it's not always possible. It really isn't. Sometimes you've got to spend the whole day doing something boring but necessary. You can't really seize the day by the scruff of the neck and make something good and worthwhile happen. But if you can, do. Right, you can only have this day once. Once in history. Once it's gone, it's gone. So, carpe diem. Seize the day if you can. All right then. Until tomorrow morning. Take care.